Across the last 3 years, Centria has been on a mission to fundamentally transform the model of care for our clients, our staff, and the industry.
We will share with you our journey towards assent-based care, the lessons we've learned, and the people we've learned them with.
We're your hosts, Timothy Yeager
and Hillary Laney.
Welcome to the HRE Podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Hi.
So happy to have you.
Nice to be here.
Olivia, tell everyone who you are, what you're doing at Centria, how long you've been doing it.
Okay, I'm Olivia. I've been with Centria almost a year now. I started with my client in September, so almost a year. I work at the Dearborn location, and
So a year, yeah, you're good. Nah, just relax. We're cool. We're not that cool. You're probably more cool than us.
I think you're probably
you give me the vibe that you're very cool.
We're chill. That's the better way to say
So you started in September. Was this your first time being a behavior tech?
Yeah, so I actually went from teaching preschool. I taught preschool for 3 years, and that was super fun. But it was pretty challenging, working with the parents, and it was more like a babysitting type deal, or I'm just going to drop my kid off at 9:30 when circle time started at 9, and it was just really hard to for the parents to take me seriously with being so young. So I talked with Miss Page. She was like, come work at Centria. I think that this would be a really, really great fit for you. In high school, we had a peer-to-peer program where we worked with the center-based students in our school, and we were able to have a friend to say hi to in the hallway, or if they wanted to join us for lunch. And I was able to go to their prom and hang out with all of them. And it was really, really cool. And I was happy to be involved within the inclusion and making it feel like everybody comes to the same school. We can all say hi to each other. No one is different from another. And just, I was really happy when Paige told me to come to Centria.
How's your experience been?
It's been awesome. Everybody is very, very helpful. If my client knocks down the trash can or something, they're like, oh, I got it, don't worry about it. Or if I needed anything, my BC, Ian, was always very, very helpful if I needed anything. I have no bad words to say about Centria. It's truly just it's my happy place, actually. I enjoy going to work and saying good morning to everybody and asking me, how's your weekend? And, I did this or whatever. And it's not only, helped me, I feel be more open, with speaking to people, but I feel like I could spark a conversation a lot easier now because there is so many people at Centria. I'm it's nice being with just a different, what's the word? It's very diverse, and I never really worked in a diverse company before, and I love learning about different people and different cultures and stuff like that as well.
That's great.
So, yeah.
So you started in September, almost a year. So there were you provided care pre-foundational plan.
Yes.
And post-foundational plan.
Yes.
It's like AD, FP, like a line in the...
So what was that transition like for you? What was the experience?
I feel like not having a foundation of care when I first started with my client was a little tricky. Just figuring out overall, what her HRE was looking like, or what were the things that we could maybe, I'm trying to think of what the best word would be, but what were the things that we could implement within their day, or what are the things that we can now put in the FOC that makes it a lot easier if I were to take a day off for the sub? What is the routine like? And that it's nice now it's all kind of thrown into the FOC. I only was working with my client 2 weeks prior to not having an FP, so it wasn't really
OG status.
a big change for me, but I definitely could see with the people being there for 5+ years prior, and then you guys adding in the FOC, how that can definitely make a difference within the client's overall experience.
What part of it is the most impactful for you as a technician?
I really like the HRE. I learned and I studied it for the first couple months when I first started. That was the first thing that I read when I came in the morning. And I was able to immediately recognize, okay, she's vocalizing, she's happy, she's skipping, she's bouncing. These are the things that we want to keep her in. And I really like I'm trying to think of what it is.
Let's dig in there. So part of the foundational plan.
The top section, the very first section,
Describes.
a supervisor describes not what the client is engaged with necessarily, but what their body is doing, how they look, how if you were to meet them for the first time, how could you tell that they're happy, relaxed, and engaged? What are their signs that tell? And so every foundational plan, that is an absolute requirement because, as to your point, if you've never met a child or a client before, that's a pretty important thing to know the first time you ever meet with them.
Spending most of that session time just trying to figure out what an HRE looks like for them. And now that it's kind of like right in your face, you're like, oh, great. I recognize that they're an HRE. And if they are an SBT client, I can go right ahead and start my SBT.
Have you had a sub on a case to where like that was like a really valuable tool for you to understand your client, the client you're working with?
I've never subbed on a case with a client that I didn't really already know.
No? Okay.
When I first started, I was my client didn't have the hours that she was at now, so I was doing 2 hours in the afternoon with another client, and my BC kind of introduced me and was like kind of with me during that time when I was subbing with that client, and it was a little bit trickier to figure out what the HRE was for that client because the reinforcement was constantly changing for them, but I could see it with other technicians who may sub or coming in for the very first time, being able to recognize, like, this is the first thing that I need to read. I can identify that they're an HRE.
She keeps mentioning her BC.
Yeah, who's your BC?
Miriam.
It's Miriam.
Yeah.
I love Miriam.
I knew it was Miriam because I know who you've worked with.
Yes, she's super awesome.
I was in the hall talking with Jerry about this interview, and I was like, Jerry, is there anything about Olivia that you like want me to know? And he said, she's always so happy. And I'll tell you, she just asks to be on the most difficult cases. she just leans in. She says, yeah, that's what he said. So can you tell us about that? Like, what has it been like working here with clients that in your role, or I'm sure techs talk to each other, right? Like, that client is so hard. Oh my gosh, I don't know how you do it. Like, talk to us about your experience working with those clients using the foundational plan and how that's changed your, like, maybe the experience others have had with those clients.
I would say when you're working with a difficult client, I feel like, at least for me, I just say, like, I'm here to provide the best care that I possibly can. And I want them to enjoy their day at therapy. I don't want them to run to the lobby door and be frustrated. And if there's something that I can do within, like, myself in order for them to have a better day, then I'm willing to put in that work on myself. And just gaining support from so many other people. Like, I've talked to Jerry so many times, like, hey, I really need help with this client, or I'm having a really hard time getting my client to transition to this specific room. And there's so many different kinds of support within the Dearborn Center that I don't ever want to leave the Dearborn Center. It's awesome. And I tell people all the time, like,
I'm about to cry.
I know.
Like I've already cried enough. There's not enough tears today, like, left. But that is not what people would have described the Dearborn Center
Prior to you working
prior to you working there, and prior to all the work that we've done to improve the care and the culture. And
it's just like from
leadership.
the very top, like from Ian all the way trickling down to Hanan in the office. Like, I feel like it's such a family. And from going from, like, just a school district, like, of course I had the teachers and, like, hey, so-and-so, hey, so-and-so. But it's like, if they can, it's like, you can see if someone is frustrated. You can see it on their face. And it's not, at least for me, no one's asking me, like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? Or I can see that you're really frustrated right now. Like, they're validating and empathizing with me. But they're just like, if you need a moment, I'm here for you. If you need a break, I'm available. And it's like, no questions asked. If I need to go to the bathroom for 2 seconds, or I need to just kind of recollect myself, because it does get kind of crazy there. And there are so many people and other clients and other noises, and it can kind of be overwhelming. And if Hanan sees me, she's like, hey, I got you a Starbucks drink or whatever.
Aww.
Or Ian brings in donuts on Fridays. Like, you can't, it's really, really hard for, I feel, some people to say, like, oh, I love my job, but I love my job. I love waking up, driving to Dearborn, and I live in Wyandotte, so it's like a 27-minute drive. I just put on my little tunes and drive to the Dearborn location, and I know that I'm going to be greeted with so many hellos, good mornings, it's so nice to see you, how was your weekend? And I feel like we all just kind of fit right in with each other, and I love it there.
You know, we kind of jumped out, and it's like you into this podcast quickly, but we forgot one question.
We did.
What's your HRE?
Inside work or outside of work?
Either way,
Ooh.
or both.
I would say my HRE outside of work is going to Michael's craft store, getting a fun little craft, and doing it at my apartment.
I love that.
Very crafty
That's
little
very
lady.
preschool teacher.
Yes, that is the one thing I loved about, well, of course, my preschool friends, but sitting and like making like a hungry caterpillar craft, like that was so much fun. I enjoyed that a lot.
I wish you were my teacher.
Well, I can be a teacher, whatever. But inside of work is just talking with people. I love learning about different people, and I love learning like one of my neighbors. We call each other neighbors, but it's like we're our pods, and they're Arab, and I love like what's a new word that you can teach me today that I can practice and learn, and they'll ask me like, oh, what is it like just being in like a different type of community, like versus Wyandotte versus where they live. And I'm like, yeah, like come to Wyandotte, enjoy it. Like we have a fun downtown. We can, like I would like all of us to get together for beach volleyball. I'm like, does anybody want 12 people that they can hang out with me this weekend? Let's go play beach volleyball. But just like talking with people. I'm such a chatty Cathy. I love to talk. And that's definitely, and the vending machine it makes me HRE. Maybe a little Pop-Tart or something. I'm like, get me through the day, a little pick me up.
We have a sticker for that. Food is my HRE.
Yep. Yeah. And music, of course. I loved listening to music, all kinds of music. That's what really gets me in the best mood that I can.
Are you a Taylor Swift fan?
I am not.
Oh,
Yes.
that's so sad.
I respect the Swifties, of course.
Well, thank you for the respect.
Yeah, but it's just like I
I'm
like
about it.
Karma.
Yeah.
Karma's a good one. I'll get that singing in my car, but I really like 70s, 80s, and like
Oh, yeah.
90s rock.
great.
That's my jam for
Just
sure.
the opposite of T Swift.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, Hillary and I have been talking about this because she's like part of the cult. And
It's new for me. I'm a new member of the Taylor Swift cult.
I don't get it. There's like some really weird thing happening across the like
The country?
society right now where it's just like, and, like I would understand it if it was like during the pandemic where we had like nothing going on, but like I just don't quite. Understand it.
She's very cool. She's a very talented lady. I just feel it's just not my jam, you know?
Timothy would not agree with you on the talented lady part.
I think she's a great performer. I just
Yeah.
entertain her. I just like.
I want a behavior analyst to analyze everything she's done to get to the level of fame she's at.
Well, it was like me and my mom were just talking about this. It was like she was full on country, like Teardrops on My Guitar. Love that one. And then it was like she kind of fell off.
She disappeared.
I guess you could say. And then within like the past 5 years or 6 years, it was like, boom, Taylor Swift, here I am. And I have all of this following. And like my best friend, she loves Taylor Swift. She went to like 10 of her concerts.
Wow.
I did not go to one because it's not my jam. It's not my HRE.
It's mine right now.
Yeah, well, that's good. It's nice.
Let's talk about like the impact. Like part of the work that like all of the work that we do centers around the impact that we have. The impact that we have on clients, on technicians, on clinicians, and like your work as a technician and really through like foundations of care. What's like the impact that you've seen with your client?
Definitely the impact I feel from like starting at baseline with my client. Like I said, she wouldn't want to sit at the table. She had a really hard time just expressing the way that she was feeling, and just providing, whether it was like myself as someone that can help her calm her body down, or if it's the PEC book that she's like able to go through her emotions and she gives me the sad PEC, like, oh, looks like you're feeling really sad right now. These are the things that we can do when you're feeling sad. And when I speak like with her mom, just with my clients' parents, they've seen such a change, like just within the home life. And they can take her to the grocery store, they can take her to Dollar Tree, and she's like, just sits with them, walks with them in their hands. And I feel like that's the biggest impact, at least for me, if I'm able to allow mom and dad to just drop their client or their child off at therapy, knowing that they're receiving the best services through Centria, and they can pick their client back up, or they can pick their child back up and bring her home, and she's very calm, cool, collected. She's got her iPad with her. She has whatever she needs at home with her, and they can take her to the store, and there's not that worry of them going into a behavior, and they're not too sure how to deal with that. And that makes me want to cry. Just listening to the way that mom, like she just told me today at drop off, like I really don't think there's somebody that gets the way that you get your client. And I would agree. I hate to blow smoke, but I really do agree because I see the way that other technicians align with their clients. And I don't think I would be the best person for that client, but I know that I'm the best technician for my client. And that's really impactful for me too, because I know that I'm doing the best that I possibly can for my client, and I can see that every day in progress. If it's someone saying hi to her in the hallway and I'm not having to prompt her, she just turns her head. Hi. I'm like, oh, that's so awesome. And I wish I would have known about being a behavioral technician when I first graduated high school, because I would have definitely been into the ABA field prior to just this past year.
When you talk about her progress and the impact that has happened for her, I am aware of where she started.
Yeah.
So what do you think made the biggest change for her? Like what intervention or what component of treatment do you think impacted her the most to make those changes?
Absolutely SBT. I think she was able to be reinforced quicker with the smaller steps that we were able to break up in SBT. And I like that SBT is very client specific. You can break up the cabs in order to achieve that goal. If it's just getting her to walk to the table, great job, you can have your way, awesome. And just keep breaking it up until you feel that you can stand up, progress, it's time for us to do something else. And her transitioning to the table and her grabbing a pencil and just writing her name, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And she gets so excited when she sees like, oh my gosh, these are the things that I can do now.
I could do hard things, yeah.
Exactly. And she knows that she's going to be reinforced when she comes to that table. So it's something that's ran every single day for her. And it's a routine that she's definitely used to. She'll like hand me my vest if we're like in IP or whatever. She's like, my way. I'm like, oh yeah, we're in the my way game. We can play the my way game. That's totally cool. Definitely SBT. I love SBT. I could talk about it all day long. It is just the coolest thing
That would be my
in the
entry.
entire world. Yeah, it really is.
There's something so incredibly reinforcing for me to sit here with the behavior technician.
Who says that?
Who's talking about calves, who's talking about micro shaping, who's talking about like the impact. Like
You can thank Miriam for that. She is
Miriam's
in my
something
head for
special.
terminology.
I'm so glad.
And it's nice, like, I don't feel, like, intimidated by Miriam. She's, like, it's not like she's, like, a friend, but if I need to talk to her about something, whatever, like, she's available for me to do that as well. But it's almost like she'll test me, like, oh, what is that? I'm like, oh, that's permanent product. She showed me that she sorted all of these dinosaurs. And it's so fun, like, being in supervision with her, because she also, like, is being jokeful or being silly or whatever, but she knows what she's doing, and she knows exactly the way that she needs to be supervising her technicians, and she knows exactly what to say or how to give feedback. Like, there's a million things that I could say about Miriam that has made my experience so much more awesome at
What an
Centria.
endorsement.
Yeah, she's awesome.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
Is there a moment? Is there a conversation? Is there a skill that like you needed feedback on or development? Like Miriam was there to like coach you through
Oh,
it.
absolutely. If my client was having a really hard time, like, keeping her hands off of my body when she was really frustrated, and instead of me going down to her eye level, because that was just something I was used to for preschool friends, I was like, oh, let me get down to their eye level, let them know that I'm available for them. Miss Olivia's here. But my client has a really hard time with, like, keeping her hands to herself, and we figured out, Miriam's like, oh my gosh, she's imitating what she wants done onto her body, onto your body. So it was like she was rubbing my arm really, really, really hard, or like squeezing my arm really, really hard. So she's like, just try it. Just try rubbing her arm just to see how she reacts to it. And we did it, and we're like, oh my gosh, she's just imitating what she wants done onto her body because she can't verbally communicate to us what she'd like done for her. And there was another one, I would say, I was not asking questions, but it was just, like I said, during preschool, it's like that self-discovery, like, oh, wow, how did you do that? And then they can explain to me, like, oh, I stacked this block on top of this block, and then I did this, and then I made a house. Working with neurotypical kids, yeah, they can explain that to you. But working with kids on the spectrum, like my client, she can't communicate that way. So Miriam was like, hey, like, let's refrain from asking those questions. Let's think of a better way that we can get her to be still engaged with those. And instead of asking all of those questions, and took it very well, wrote it down, made sure that I was implementing that. And the next time I saw Miriam, and she was like, oh yeah, I love when I can give you feedback and the next day you're doing the things you're supposed to be doing. And it's never in a negative way. It's always, hey, I really, really liked the way that you did this. And I'm not a big fan of the way that you did it this way. These are the things that you can do to make it better this time. And she's very, very reinforcing.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm excited for my Fridays and Tuesdays with her.
Yeah.
I get excited. I'm like, yeah, with Miriam. Awesome.
What was it like for you to watch other technicians go through the transition with their clients to like foundational plans or SBT?
SBT, I feel like I watched more than the foundation of care. But if I'm going to be honest, a lot of friends had a hard time, like, first, like, initially with SBT. It was like, oh my gosh, I have to stay engaged with my client all day. Like, oh my gosh,
Wow.
we already do that. Like,
Well,
you should already be doing that.
That's what we're here to do.
Exactly. But I think when it was like, they even would ask me, like, I'm not an SBT, like, superstar. I just was
I don't know
one of
about
the
that.
first people that was, like, really kind of in
Involved.
the,
Training.
yeah, exactly. And, like, you just take your time, like, be patient. It's not like you have to do it every single 3 minutes if they're not HRE. Like, you know your client more than anybody. So watch what they're doing, watch how they're engaging. If you feel that they're HRE, go ahead and progress and ask your BC, because they're going to have all those answers for you. And it was fun hearing, like, all the My Way buttons going off in the center. It was like I'd walk down the green sections like, my way, my way, my way. My clients looking at me like, my way. Like, I don't know. But now, like, with almost running SBT for almost a year now, I can see a lot more people are more willing to be an SBT client or take on an SBT client because they see that it works now. At first, it was like, oh, I'm not too sure about this new SBT stuff. Like, that's not traditional ABA. And me coming from somebody who's never really done traditional ABA, I'm like, oh, well, whatever treatment plan, like, the clinician feels that is best for the client, then I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I saw the progress that my client made with SBT, and now I get to see all the other clients at the center make progress with SBT, and it's so awesome to see that.
That's so great.
It's so cool. I love it.
It's so great.
I was, like, practicing SBT on my boyfriend.
I
when
love
like,
it.
first started. I, like, sent Miriam a video, and I was like, is this Cap 1 and Cap 2? She's like, yeah, you're awesome. Like, I've never had a technician send me a video of them practicing SBT at home, like, let alone with their boyfriend.
That's funny.
I was like, John, like, I'm going to clap and you're going to say my way. And I'm going to say, yeah, you can have your way. He's my HRE too, absolutely. He keeps me sane and brings me back down if needed.
What advice do you have for technicians? You've been in the field for almost a year.
Yeah.
You seem to enjoy it and love the job.
Love it. I recommend it to everybody. If you love working with kids, if you want to be able to, like, feel like you're being that difference in that child's life, then definitely apply to be a behavioral technician. But
What are the things you do? Like stressful moments, difficult times. Like what are the things, tools that you use to, like,
I really
recenter?
like, well, thankfully I just got an Apple Watch actually. So there is, like, a breathing thing
Yeah?
that you can put on there, and it's like take a moment to just think about, like, your mindfulness and think about, like, what are the things, or it's like take a deep breath for like 5 seconds or whatever. But I mean, I'm not a very stressful person, so I just take everything, like, if my client is having a not the best day or whatever, I'm like, she's not having a good day. Just like the way I just sometimes wake up, I'm just like, I'm really not feeling like my best time today. But I would like, my best advice would just be, like, be a team player. If somebody needs help, help them. If you're not doing anything, walk around. Do you need a break? Do you need to go to the bathroom? Because I know as a tech, I appreciate that. Because sometimes it's hard to get away from your client and use the restroom or go make your lunch or whatever it is. Be positive and don't think because the client had a bad day, like you did something wrong. Because there are so many other factors. And that's definitely something that I had to learn when I first started. I like wanted to cry if my client was having a bad day. And it was like, Miriam's like, no, like you can't beat yourself up over something that you are here and there are a million other things that could possibly have happened throughout that day that have made that client frustrated. And there's so many other factors going into it. And you can't beat yourself up. You can't get down on yourself because you know that at the end of the day, if you can say, I provided the best care that I possibly could, they simply just were not having the best day. That's how I go home, and I know that I did the best that I possibly could for my client. My client gave me a hug goodbye, and that was it. We said goodbye to each other, and I said, see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I feel a lot of technicians do get overwhelmed, and I think having the support at the Dearborn Center, whether it be Hanan or Mayrel in the office, like, hey, can you hang out with my client for 2 seconds so I can kind of recollect myself? And I think everybody gets overwhelmed. Everybody has those days where they're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired, or I'm so hungry, I'm going to bite my arm off or whatever. Like, you can't.
I'm getting to that point.
Me too.
Yeah. I just can't stress enough, you can't beat yourself up over it. You can't go home and say, oh my gosh, I did this horrible thing, or I didn't provide the best day for that client, because, like I said, there's so many other factors that go into it.
It's great advice.
Yeah. What's next for you? Like, you went from preschool teacher to behavior technician. Like, what goals? Is there something out there in the future that you're looking towards?
Right now, I really, really like being a behavioral technician. I like being hands-on with the client. As much as I would love to be a BC, like, I really don't think I'd have it in me to, like, sit there on the computer and take notes and stuff. I do really like, not saying that's not all you guys do, but at least, like,
My
from
job's
what
a little
I see,
more
my
exciting than that.
perspective,
Yeah.
I like being in the field. I like implementing the programs. I like that Miriam has a program set already for me, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll go ahead and do that, and I can get on Relias and refresh my memory if needed, if we're doing back chaining right
Backward
now
training,
with,
Yeah.
with her name. And I just asked her last night, I'm like, hey, what can I look up on Relias just to make sure that I'm, like, implementing the program the correct way? But I'd like to be a behavioral, like, specialist within the school district. I feel the school district really, really needs help in a lot of areas in their special education program. At least at my high school when I was there wasn't a lot of inclusion, and I was happy to be a part of the inclusion when we first started my senior year with peer-to-peer. But there's a lot of other places within the school district that I feel could need the support.
Thank you for taking the time to talk with
Very
us.
much appreciate
Yeah,
it.
of course. Thank you.
I think this happens in every conversation that we have with people like yourself, but I just continue to become more grateful and more thankful for the company and for people like you.
For people like you.
Yeah, this is incredible.
Thank you. Well, if you guys are thinking about it, feel free to open up a Boston location.
Oh, hey. Are you moving?
I told Ian that I was going to tell you guys to stick it in your guys' ear. I just love Boston.
Oh.
So I was like, oh my gosh, I know you guys already have a Massachusetts location, but I don't plan to leave Dearborn anytime soon. So,
Good to know.
yes, I love it there. That's my happy place. It's awesome.
It's better for you
Yeah.
being there.
Yeah, I'm happy that Paige was like, you need to be at the Dearborn location. Don't go anywhere else. You're coming to the Dearborn location. I'm going to train you. You're going to shadow me for 3 days, and then you're going to get with your client. I was like, okay, sounds good. It's all played out for me. Sounds good. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, thank
Well, thank
you
you.
so
Well,
much.
thank you
Yeah.
guys.
This
It was
was
really
great.
nice to see you guys
Yeah.
and talk with you. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. And that concludes another episode of the HRE podcast.
Thanks for listening. If the HRE podcast is a part of your synthesized reinforcers, let us know what else would make the perfect reinforcement context for you in the comments below, and join us next time.